We're back for your ears only. I'm Eddie Robinson.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. With every passing day, more and more Russians are ceasing to believe that the results of the elections were honest. That was former Soviet Union leader Mikhail Gorbachev supporting protests against the questionable presidential victory of Vladimir Putin, who claimed they were fomented by U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now this.
These are sensitive reconnaissance missions, and we don't talk about those missions as a general rule.
I think we're always concerned when, when there's an aircraft that, whether it's manned or unmanned, that we lose, particularly in a place where we're not able to get to it.
Pentagon spokesman George Little and John Kirby weren't saying much about the downed drone put on display by Tehran last week, but an anonymous official soon confirmed it was not Afghan surveillance mission gone accidentally astray across the border, but rather part of an extensive, intensive intelligence operation keeping tabs on Iranian nuclear and missile development, and arguably an invasion of airspace that could be deemed an act of war. Even more warlike were a series of suicide bombings targeting Shiites within Afghanistan, like the one whose aftermath we heard in central Kabul.
Following a series of explosions at critical Iranian facilities, indeed, as well as assassination of key scientists and the infamous Stuxnet computer virus attack on nuclear centrifuges, many sources and analysts are suggesting that covert hostilities against Iran have been underway for some time, perhaps slowing production of atomic weapons, but increasing the risk of open warfare by accident or design. Veteran Washington reporter Michael Hirsh wrote about that in his latest report as chief correspondent for the National Journal, and he's on the line again now for Your Ears Only. Welcome back to the program.
Oh, happy to be here.
You spoke to one retired U.S. official still privy to current intelligence. What did he say about the drone mission and the wider covert operation against Iran?
U.S. officials like this one won't fully acknowledge that there's an ongoing covert action program against Iran and its nuclear program, but they don't deny it either. And this official certainly did not, and said to me, quote, the Israelis are very active here as well. Another official acknowledged that there was coordination going on between the U.S. and Israel. So I think if you look at the evidence, not just of the actions that have occurred inside Iran, including the killings of various Iranian nuclear scientists, explosions that can't be explained, as well as the Stuxnet worm, as you noted, but also look at retaliatory efforts that seem to be increasingly made by Iran, which may include this plot back in October against an ambassador in Washington that the U.S. alleged Tehran was behind. I think what you're seeing is the outlines of real covert war and retaliatory war going on.
There's a disagreement over how valuable high technology in the downed drone would be to Iran or other interested parties such as Russia or China. And it was suspicious that the bottom of the craft was hidden by so much bunting and banners, maybe because so much had been destroyed in its downing. What's your view on that?
This is still something of a mystery. It does appear that this very sophisticated drone, stealth drone, the RQ-170, had the capability of effectively landing itself once it loses a signal. It's supposed to go back to base. Something happened here so that it didn't, but it may have also landed largely intact. That said, we really don't know for sure whether what the Iranians showed on their television was indeed this drone. No one really knows what it looks like except those who built it. And there are, serious doubts about whether even if they do have it, it could be reverse engineered, which is to say taken apart so that the Iranians or or anyone helping them, like the Russians perhaps, could figure out how it was built and duplicate it. We really don't know, but it's a lot harder than it sounds.
Nobody is suggesting a sort of John le Carré plot that this is a sort of Trojan horse that the CIA wants the Iranians to take into their secret scientific dens, maybe to track it, track their location, something like that?
That sounds like it would make a great novel, David.
Let's work on it.
But I don't know. I had not heard that particular scenario. It probably sounds a beat or two too clever for even for the CIA. I do think that this was a machine that they simply lost but which is evidence of just how stepped up the surveillance really is.
Short of direct retaliation, many suspect that Iran's militant Shiite leaders will be even more inclined now to instigate instability across its borders in Afghanistan and Iraq as the U.S. withdraws.
Yeah, and one of the concerns here is that what seems to be a covert war could escalate into a larger overt war, perhaps by accident. I mean, if the Iranians do retaliate effectively and a lot of Westerners or Americans are killed, then that could be a pretext for war by the U.S., by Israel, by some other party. You know, that's the danger here of something that's basically an undeclared war going on without anyone really able to stop it or willing to do so.
Let's look at the other aspects of the problem. Looking across Afghanistan's other border with Pakistan, how do you read reports that unpopular President Asif Ali Zardari has left for at least a few weeks of unspecified medical treatment in Dubai? Some say it's cover for his being forced out in a military coup.
Yeah, well, this is a time-honored practice in Pakistan, as in other countries. People just, they leave for medical treatment and never return. We have seen that occur before. In this case, it does appear from the reports that I've heard and the reporting I've done that Zardari genuinely had something go wrong. And in fact, it may have gone wrong when he was having his conversation with President Obama on the phone a few days ago. And he may have suffered a stroke, some sort of heart ailment, did go to Dubai for treatment. He's under enormous pressure. He's as unpopular as a leader could be, both with the people and the military. So there are lingering suspicions of a coup. We've also seen in recent days that at least 14 ambassadors have basically been pulled back and replaced. So we're not sure what we're seeing yet, whether it's a coup, which General Kayani, the Pakistani Army Chief of Staff, has always said he did not want to do. He didn't want to follow in the footsteps of Pervez Musharraf, his predecessor. But nonetheless, there may be something going on, which is a kind of a gradual coup. Zardari forced from power, and perhaps the military's favorite candidate, who now appears to be Imran Khan, put in to replace him.
Of course, the military is furious with the United States now because of the apparently accidental NATO airstrike that killed a couple of dozen Pakistani border troops. What happens to U.S.-Pakistan relations if the military takes a stronger role?
Well, right now they're as bad as almost anyone can remember. Access routes to Afghanistan have been closed. Border posts have been closed off. The Pakistanis, despite all the bad press, continue to cooperate against al-Qaeda in terms of opening up air routes for U.S. drones. But in other respects, things are pretty shut down, including the U.S. aid program, which has been largely frozen. So it's pretty bad right now, but my guess would be that both sides will pull back from the brink because as antagonistic as things are between the U.S. military and the Pakistani military and the two governments, both sides still do need each other to cooperate. And I think we've seen this relationship play out before. So it's likely to become, I think it's not likely to become a complete break in relations.
Michael Hirsh is chief correspondent for the National Journal.
Quote from the news, "No government in the world kills its people unless it's led by a crazy person." That was Syria's President Bashar al-Assad insisting to ABC News that an estimated 4,000 deaths in his country were the work of outsiders and criminals, not government-backed repression.
Next, how firm is the Euro fix? For your ears only.